So, this is my Nightblade Tank build, and this is just, it's going to be a fun build for 4-man content mainly. Dungeons, arenas, fun. The whole idea behind the build is fast moving, ult building, just an absolute machine at kind of running in, stacking, getting ahead of the group, being at the front, pulling stuff in, getting it ready. Do you know what I mean? Stacking, burning, ready to go. So that's how we've kind of designed this build, and let's go over all the details. So we'll start off with the attributes. We've got 31 health and 33 stamina. That's to balance everything out for us. So as you can see, the stats there, without the Warhorn buff, we've got 23.8k magicka, 39.4k health, and 27.1k max stamina. And magicka recovery on the low side, 1.1k. Now the reason for that is because we're not using magicka recovery jewelry, because with this build we're trying to obtain something else. But we are still going to be resource safe, because we're going to be making sure we're using potions on cooldown to benefit from a number of things. So don't worry too much about the low recoveries. We are going to have no problems with our sustain. In terms of our resistances, if we buff up with our things, we have got 28.9k spell and physical resistance. Pretty much okay. That's pretty much, we might as well call that 29k. With 29k, the cap is 33k. We don't need to be at the cap of 33k really for dungeon content. We're going to be able to get through it all, no problem, with that 28k. On our advanced stats, we've got the block cost, which is our important one we're looking at here. That's 677 block cost. That is good. Anything under 750 is good, and that's going to really help us. Block mitigation, 66%. That's going to go up drastically in various different things that we're going to be doing. And also the sprint speed here is important, 149%. This is unbuffed though. We are going to have some speed boosting skills and things that are going to buff this further. This will be at the speed boost cap, the sprint speed cap of 200%. When we look at our food, we are using Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This is to give us a spread of all of our resources even more, and a bit of health recovery. We've got the Atronach Mundus Stone, because we do need a little bit of magicka recovery, even though we are going to be benefiting from various different things that are going to give us resources. Our race for this particular build is going to be the Argonian. The reason why is the resourceful passive. So because we're going to be relying on some Nightblade passives that require drinking potions for ultimate, we're also going to be relying on a gear set that requires us to drink potions for ultimate. We're going to be using this passive to get even more resources back when we drink a potion. So when you drink a potion, you restore 3, 1, 2, 5 health, magicka, and stamina. And with that, we also gain 1,000 magicka and 1,000 stamina. So really good passive. This is great. Helps for sustain. It's going to allow us to sprint constantly, spam chains, spam our skills, use all of our skills on cooldown. This is going to be extremely helpful. The other passives are Argonian resistance. Increase your max health by 1,000 and your disease and poison resistance. We've got Life Mend. Increase your healing done by 6%. And then the most useful passive, the Amphibian. Increase your swimming speed by 50%. Just what we need. For the potions, we're going to use Tri-Stat potions. If you're on the kind of lower side of things where you don't have the Crown Tri-Stat potions saved up from your daily rewards, you could just use like stamina potions or health potions or magicka potions, the looted ones if that's the ones that you've got. Not ideal to do that, but because of the passive that you are using and the fact you're going to be using potions more often, if you can't afford to use Tri-Stat or buy Tri-Stat potions and you don't have the Restoration Crown potions, then just use any looted potions. But ideally you do want to be using actual Tri-Stat potions. And what the idea is, you want to burn through your resources. Like wait till you've almost out of stamina and magicka, and then you boom, use a Tri-Stat potion, and then you get the proc on top of that from your passive, and you're going to get even more resources back. Next, let's look at the gear. So to be able to do the job that we want it to do, we want to be able to go fast. We want to be able to move in, stack, burn, done. We are going to be using the Vatashran One Hand and Shield, the Void Bash set. Now this is one of my top sets nowadays because it just makes dungeon content super easy, 4-man content super easy. if you're doing any type of dungeon or 4-man content and you're not using this, you're making your own life more difficult. This is just an unbelievable gear set, really, when you look at it. So, if you've got the perfected version, you're going to get almost 1,000 extra max health. 965 max health for the perfected item. If you don't have the perfected, then don't worry. You don't need to have it perfected. You can just run Vatashran on normal to get this, because that's the most important thing. The important one is when you deal damage with Power Bash, you apply Call of the Void to yourself for 2 seconds. Enemies within 12 meters are immediately pulled in to you. After Call of the Voids ends, you apply Major Main to enemies in the area for 10 seconds, reducing their damage done by 10%. This effect can occur once every 13 seconds. So the idea is you want to run ahead, stack the ads, run in, Power Bash one of the ads. Everything's going to get pulled in. It's all stacked, and then you burn it down. This also means that using a Nightblade tank isn't as sustain heavy anymore. So one of the issues that you have with a Nightblade tank is they are very difficult to sustain when you're having to spam things like Silver Leash. So when you have to use Silver Leash for your chaining in skill to pull everything in, you can run out of stamina very fast. Now, by using the Void Bash set, you just need to press one button. You press one button, everything gets pulled in. So nice and easy. You cast Power Bash and it's all chained in. So for this one, I'm using a decisive weapon because we're trying to build ultimate as fast as possible. And then I do have the Daedric enchant on the one-hander. That's going to give me 238 health and 88 magicka and stamina back. Overall, this gives back more resources than just like an absorbed stamina glyph. But obviously you get less stamina. You get more of everything, but less of each individual thing. So I've just gone with that because I thought having the extra health was okay. Magicka and stamina, because we're not using balance, might be a little bit of extra help. So we are going to be using that particular enchant. On the shield, we've got a Tri-Stat and a Sturdy. You don't have to use Tri-Stat glyphs on all your gear pieces. I've talked about this reasonably often. If you are like not able to buy Tri-Stat glyphs, just use stamina and magicka. Use stamina on the big pieces, the head, the chest, the legs, the helmet, the shield. Like, use it on those pieces and then use magicka on the small pieces. Put all your points into health. Balance it out that way. If you're not an Argonian, if you're something else, just balance out your stats in a different way. So you just want to make sure that you've got a nice baseline of stats. You've got plenty of magicka, you've got plenty of health, you've got plenty of stamina. Whichever way you choose to balance that is okay. My personal preference is all Tri-Stat, but you don't have to do that if you can't afford to do so. The shield is sturdy, and then we move on to the next set, which is the Arcasis set. Now, the reason why is because we are going to be benefiting from a potion passive that the Nightblade has that gives us ultimate. We're also on an Argonian, which is going to benefit from using potions to get more resources back. And so the natural fit to go with that is the Arcasis set that gives us and our group ultimate when we use a potion. So 2 items, 1206 max health. 3 items is 1487 armor. 4 items is 1206 max health. And then for the 5 items, whenever you drink a potion while in combat, you and 3 group members gain 44 ultimate, and this effect can occur once every 30 seconds. So we've gone with a certain jewelry setup as well that brings our cooldown on our potions to 32 seconds. And that's going to help us to be able to dish out the ultimate for our group and ourselves, drink potions to get all our resources back, and give us more ultimate. It's all going to work in tandem to provide us with a real nice group, like a real nice set of buffs and benefits. So we are using Arcasis, and we're using it on the staff, an infused Crusher staff. We're also using it on the heavy body pieces, the big body pieces, the chest, sturdy, Tri-Stat, Arcasis. We've got it on the legs, again, Arcasis on the legs, sturdy, Tri-Stat, and then on the feet. We don't use it on the waist, the hands, the shoulder, because those are smaller slots. So you don't get as much armor value if you use it on those slots. So there we go. Arcasis is only active on the back bar, so you do need to be careful not to drink a potion on your front bar, because then you're going to have to wait 32 seconds until you can drink a potion again. So that can come up with a bit of a problem for us. The next gear set, we're using a 1 piece of Swarm Mother just for the max stats. So we're going to get 1096 max stamina and 1096 max magicka. You could use a different set that provides the same benefit. You could use something like Magma Incarnate for more magicka and stamina recovery. it's really up to you. We're just using a one piece that's going to give us some kind of benefit. So in this case, it's given us dual stats, which is really, really nice. On the next one, we are on the shoulder piece, and the other pieces we're going with Powerful Assault. So we are wanting to provide some group benefits still. We are using Powerful Assault because I like the use of the Caltrop skill for rooting down enemies, for like holding them in place, snaring them, reducing their speed. That is kind of something I really like to do. So I'm going with Powerful Assault because I'm going to combine it with Caltrops. So again, Sturdy Tri-Stat. We're using it on the shoulder because we're not using a full monster set, because we are using a mythic item in this build. So Sturdy Tri-Stat, max stamina. 2 items max health, 1206 max health. For the 3 items, 1096 max stamina. 4 items, 129 weapon and spell damage. And then for the 5 items, when you cast an assault ability while in combat, you and its 5 group members within 10 meters gain 307 weapon and spell damage for 10 seconds. So we are providing the Powerful Assault buff with our crowd control skill. And we've got this on the shoulder, we've got it on the waist, we've got it on the hands, and we've got it on the neck and one of the rings. So that's where we're using the Powerful Assault set. The final piece of gear is the Wild Hunt ring. I want to be really fast with this build. If you don't want to use this, you don't have to. You could always use something else. So if you want to go with the Death Dealer's Fate ring instead, you could do. For me, I just want a nice, speedy, quick build to get in and move ahead fast throughout that content. So the Wild Hunt ring is going to increase your movement speed by 15% while in combat, and increases your movement speed by 45% while out of combat. It's swift, and it's got a magical recovery enchant. On the other ring, we're using a swift potion cooldown. And then on the neck, we're using infused potion cooldown. Now, the reason we don't use 2 or 3 infused potion cooldowns is because we don't want to proc our potion too early before our cases is ready. So we want it to be more or less on 30 seconds. So once we get to 30-second cooldown, our cases is ready to proc. We use a potion, we proc it again. So we are using it in a way where this is 32 seconds. We could get it down another second or two. But I also don't like it to be slap bang on 30 seconds, because sometimes if you press it immediately, it won't actually give you the ultimate back on the 30, like slap bang on the 30 seconds. So we're going with a 32-second cooldown on our potions. And then for the other piece, we're using double swift and then a magical recovery. All that gear, again, is in Sturdy Tri-Stat. And that is it. Okay, on the skills. So, Pierce Armor, must-have skill. Taunt, debuff, everything you need. You got to have it. So, Pierce Armor, first skill. Second skill, Heroic Slash. This is kind of a flex skill. If you really want to lose this, you can. If you wanted to slot Refreshing Path, this would be the skill to drop. But considering we're trying to build Ultimate fast, the Minor Heroism is quite useful to have. So I would rather keep Heroic Slash there and have the Minor Heroism. The actual debuff that you get from Heroic Slash isn't that useful. 5% damage reduction isn't the end of the, like, it's not going to make that much difference. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't have it. But yeah, so Heroic Slash, a kind of flex skill if you want. Leeching Strike's pretty essential skill on this one, because it is going to give you a lot of stamina back. So because you're going to be sprinting, because you're going to be moving a lot, this is quite a useful skill to slot and have. So this will give you, when you light attack and heavy attack, you're going to gain resources back. You also gain resources back when the skill ends, and it'll give you a nice boost of resources. So real useful skill for a Nightblade in all kind of content, really. And it's a great sustain skill. Dark Cloak, another important skill. So this is going to give you a heal. This is a really good heal over time. It can, like, when you are buffed up, you can easily be ticking away at 6, 7, 8k per second with Dark Cloak. It is a really good heal. Based off maxed health, it's a tank-based heal. It's a heal over time, though. It does mean that you don't have a burst heal on a Nightblade, which can be an issue for some players. If you kind of keep this up most of the time, then it's usually pretty good. But if you're kind of using it after you take a big hit, it's going to take a few seconds to get going, then it can be a little bit of a problem. So that is something to look out for. This is also going to proc your armor buff. So you are going to benefit from having major resolve via this particular skill, because this is like your major resolve comes as part of a Nightblade passive, and you proc that by using Dark Cloak. So it's kind of a hitting with a number of different things. You also gain minor protection with this skill, which reduces your damage taken by 5% for 12 seconds. So it's like a three-way skill. A heal, major resolve, and minor protection all into one skill. So really, really useful to have that. Power Bash is the next skill. This is to proc the Vatishran one-handed shield. If you don't use the Vatishran one-handed shield, let's say you're on a boss fight, then definitely switch this out for something else and use the master weapons for boss fights if you want to. You don't have to use Vatishran Sword and Board. The Void Bash set doesn't need to be used on boss fights if there's no ads. So if there's nothing to chain in, then take it off and use something else. And then that means you can switch this skill for something that might be a bit more useful. Maybe something like Swallowed Soul, for example, is going to give you more ultimate back. So you could use that. You could get extra healing from Refreshing Path. So there's a number of different things you could use in place of Power Bash if needed. Finally, we're using Incap. Now, the reason why is because while slotted, you gain Reeve, which restores 100 Magicka and Stamina when you deal damage with light or heavy attacks. So because we've also got Leeching Strikes, which gives us healing and resources back when we do light and heavy attacks, this also provides us resources back with light and heavy attacks. So what I'm trying to say is, you're kind of being encouraged to light attack weave where you can with this particular build, because when you do so, you're going to gain a ton of resources and you're going to get healed. I think I might have not mentioned the fact that this is a heal as well, and it's a really good heal. If you combine the heal from Leeching Strikes with Dark Cloak, and then you've got Incap on there as well, you light attacking, you're getting loads of healing, you're getting loads of resources. It all works well together. It all pieces together as part of a puzzle. Now, if you're not light attack weaving, there's no point in using Incap, so you might as well switch this out and use Barrier. Use Barrier if you don't, if you're not kind of light attacking, because there's just no point. If you're not light attacking, there's no point having Incap on your bar. Onto the back bar, we've got Inner Rage for a range taunt. You can use Frost Clench as well if you want. That's completely up to you. But that's just a range taunt and Magicka taunt. Razor Caltrops. This is being used because we have quite a low stamina cost of skills so far. We're not really using anything stamina related. And so we can sustain this because we're not going to be spamming chains because we've got the Vatishran one-handed shield. So with Caltrops, it's going to provide us with a snare and an AoE major breach. What that means is when you go into a fight, you want to light attack first to start combat. You want to throw down Caltrops in front of the enemy so they walk onto it to snare them. Then you walk in, you power bash, you chain everything onto the Caltrops. Everything has major breach, which means it's going to die faster. Everything is snared, so you can taunt it easier, and then everything's going to die. And your group are also getting Powerful Assault because you started combat and started off with the Caltrop skill, which is an assault ability needed to proc Powerful Assault. So it kind of works all well with each other as well. Next we've got Blockade of Frost. We have to use this to maintain our back bar enchant, our Infused Crusher. It's also really good in terms of it can proc the chilled effect and immobilize enemies, which can be quite useful. If you immobilize an enemy on top of your Caltrops, that can be really nice to just hold them in place. We don't really have the bar space to run a skill that can like fear the enemy or hold the enemy in place. So this is kind of your only hope to hold them in place without needing to taunt them with the chilled effect and the frost staff and this particular skill. Next we've got Mirage. Now Mirage is another good skill, another really good Nightblade skill. So surround yourself with a Phantasmic Aura to gain major evasion and minor resolve, reducing damage from area attacks by 20%, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 2974 for 26 seconds. So actually really, really good. We're going to get quite a lot of benefits. We're going to get quite a good amount of damage reduction by having this. You can use the other morph as well. The other morph will mean that you don't have minor resolve, but it also does mean you're going to be immune to snares and immobilizations. So if you're going into a fight where you know there's something that's going to immobilize you or snare you, switch to the other morph, and then you can go through there without being affected by those effects. So that is always another option. The next skill, Silver Leash. So even though we're using the Vatishran one-handed shield, you still kind of want to have a pull skill, because if you are dealing with enemies that are out of range, then obviously how are you going to get them chained in? Well, you're going to have to physically chain them in with Silver Leash. Not ideal, because it's a waste of a bar space considering using a two-piece gear set to pull everything in. If you miss anything, it is a bit of an inconvenience. It is a huge stamina cost at 3k stamina, but it's an essential thing that you need to do if you don't have actually use your Void Bash set efficiently. when you use Void Bash, you do have to really think about when you're proccing it. You've got to proc it at the right time. You don't just run in and hit the first enemy. You walk into combat. You wait for the enemies to be in a good place. You go around behind the first enemy and you Void Bash to pull in the range stuff. You don't want to get stuff stuck out of range because then it's additional stamina cost. You don't want to walk straight into an ad pull and hit Void Bash straight away. You don't want to pull stuff in immediately because things are going to be too far back. So you do want to be kind of timing it for a point where you are actually going to chain in the maximum amount of enemies. The final skill, Aggressive Horn. This is your main ultimate. This is the ultimate you are going to actually use. So Aggressive Horn, it's going to provide you with 10% more magicka and stamina for 30 seconds. And your group are going to benefit from the major force, increasing their critical damage. It means your group's going to do more damage. The fights are going to end faster. You're going to have to tank for less time. So best ultimate for tanks. And that is that. The passives. So we want to kind of go over the passives and what we're making use of here. So in terms of the Nightblade passives, Master Assassin is not something we're making use of, so you don't have to have that. Executioner, again, when an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you restore 1,000 magicka and stamina. If you've got your blockade down on the ground, this is going to proc fairly often, especially during ad pulls. When you're in an ad pull, you've got your blockade down, you've got your caltrops down. This is going to be proccing every time something dies. So it's definitely worth having Executioner because it is going to proc. Pressure points increases your weapon and spell critical by 4, 3, 8 for each assassination ability slotted. You want to have this because your only group buff is going to proc based on this. So Hemorrhage increases your crit damage by 10%. Dealing critical damage grants you and your group minus savagery, increasing your weapon critical. So this is your only group buff for a Nightblade, really. One of the only Nightblade's group buffs is minus savagery. Minus savagery is a damage buff for any stamina damage dealers. If you don't have any stamina damage dealers, then obviously this is pointless. If you do have stamina damage dealers, you need to be causing critical damage to proc this, which is why having the Hemorrhage passive and the Pressure Points passive are kind of good to have so that we can do critical damage. We want to be doing some critical damage to proc this. So that is the group buff of the Nightblade. The Shadow passives, Refreshing Shadows, increase your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 15%. You got to have it. Shadow Barrier, here we go. So casting a shadow ability grants you major resolve for 6 seconds, which increases your armor. This duration is increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor. So we've got 12 seconds worth right there, which works for me. And obviously, like I said before, that procs off your Dark Cloak. Dark Vigor. So on our front bar where Dark Cloak is slotted, we get an extra 3% max health. Increases the duration of your non-invisibility based shadow abilities by 2 seconds. So our Dark Cloak lasts 2 seconds longer than the tooltip says because of this. So we get more healing over a long period of time. And then the last passives. One of the main passives here, the Catalyst passive. After drinking a potion, you gain 20 ultimate. So when we drink a potion, we're going to gain 20 ultimate from the Catalyst passive and 44 ultimate from Arcasis. We're going to gain resources back from the potion and resources back from our Argonian passive. So we're kind of getting a whole bunch of different things thanks to this passive and the gear and all the different options we've decided to combine together to create a build that benefits greatly from drinking potions. And that potion cooldown has been brought down to 32 seconds as well. So we're going to be drinking potions more often to benefit from this on a more regular basis. Next, we've got Magicka. Flood increases your Magicka by 8% with a siphoning ability slotted. Obviously, that's why we've got Leech and Shadows on the front bar. So we want to have this max Magicka on our main bar, on our front bar. So that's why Leech and Strikes is slotted on the front and not the back, even though it's a skill that runs over a 20-second duration. We do want to have that max Magicka on our main bar to benefit from. Soul Siphon increases your healing done by 3% for each siphoning ability slotted. Again, that's going to be on our front bar, so when we've got our Dark Cloak active, we're going to benefit from increased healing with our because our Leech and Strikes is slotted on the front bar, giving us this passive on our front bar. And then Transfer, casting a siphoning ability while in combat generates 2 ultimate. So every time we cast Leech and Strikes, if we don't cast any other skill from this skill line, every 20 seconds we're going to get a little bit more ultimate. But you can, if you have loads of resources, maybe if you kind of at your max stamina, you got extra resources to get through, you could just keep casting this every 5 or 6 seconds to get the ultimate as well. So that is all of the passives. Okay, next we've got the champion points. As per usual, the green CP is up to you. You slot whatever you want. I'm not going to guide you through everything here, but obviously the best ones to use for pure tanking: Breakfall, Wanderer, Steadfast Enchantment. Treasure Hunter. Really vital for dungeons. Gifted Rider's always good. For actual tanking, Rationer for your boost to your food duration. Liquid Efficiency, especially on this build. You absolutely 100% want to be using Liquid Efficiency. Whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. Think about this logically. Every 32 seconds, you're going to be using a potion to proc Arcasis, to proc your Nightblade passive, to give you resources back, to proc the resource passive. So you need to make sure that you're using Liquid Efficiency, because you're going to have a high cost and high use of potions. So by having a 10% chance not to use a few potions is actually pretty valuable with this build. And then finally, Steed's Blessing. So when you're out of combat, increase movement speed by 20%. Well, this is a speed-based build for dungeons on a Nightblade. So you've got to have the speed-based passive. Blue CP. Standard stuff. You take everything that doesn't need to be slotted. And your main slottables really just Ironclad, Duelist Rebuff, Enduring Resolve, and Unassailable. You don't really need Bulwark for this build because we're already pretty much ticking away at the armor cap. And it's not really going to make any difference. If you do want to proc your front bar enchant more often, you could slot Cutting Defense. That's going to proc your enchant on cooldown when you're blocking. So Cutting Defense, when you stand there and you're getting hit by direct damage attacks and you're on your front bar, it's going to potentially proc your front bar enchant on cooldown. As well as light and heavy attacks proc your cooldown, and so do weapon abilities. But this is just another thing that can help you to activate your front bar enchant if you're using those skills like not as often. So if you want to maintain that, you can. It's not essential though. For the red CP, there is a few options, but I've gone with Boundless Vitality, Fortified. We've got some sustained benefits from Sustained by Suffering, and then over here we've got Celerity for increased movement speed by 10%. We're trying to move fast, so we have gone with that. Problems here, you could use something like Bracing Anchor, however you are going to get a 16% movement speed reduction, which is the only reason I'm not using it. So although it's going to provide you with a good amount of increased block mitigation, it's kind of destroying the build in a way by having 16% less speed, so we're not using that. But if you're having trouble with a boss fight with this build, then maybe switch Celerity for Bracing Anchor for that particular fight. Obviously, we've got all the non-slottables, again, Nimble Protector and things like that. You could always slot something like Rejuvenation as well as Sustained by Suffering. Other good options, Expert Evasion for a free dodge roll. A free break free with Slippery can be useful in certain places. But there we go. That is the main stuff for the CP. And that is everything for this build. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next build. Bye-bye.